Welcome to another episode of Founders Club. Today we're going to be talking to Matty Monahan, aka Matty Mo, aka the most famous artist, and we're going to be diving into a real estate and art project that he's working on called Art City. Very excited to have him on the show today and learn all about this very cool project that he's working on. As always, while you're here, check out the links in the description below. And if you like money, you like real estate, hit that subscribe button because this is the show for you. Let's dive in.
Welcome to Founders Club, the show for real estate entrepreneurs.
Matty, welcome to Founders Club.
Oliver, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, man, really appreciate you. Like I was saying earlier, real long time fan of your work and the things you've been doing. Actually, I think one of your pieces is right back here on the wall. This is one of the
it's the TV series. Nice.
The Scroll TV series, yep. So representing, but over the course of the years, I've seen you do some really kind of big, wild, crazy ideas, marketing tactics, stunts, whatever you want to call them. You've done the big selfie walls around LA. You've painted entire houses completely 100% bright pink. And you guys even changed the famous Hollywood sign to say Hollyweed. And so just why don't you give us just a quick background on kind of how you became the most famous artist?
Sure. And I'll start this whole podcast with a couple of caveats. I am in no way a real estate professional, although I am now heavily dabbling in the trade. I run a large studio, so a lot of different artists involved in all my projects. While the banner name, the most famous artist, gets credit for many of them, it takes a village to build some of the stuff we're doing. And my background is in technology and startups, and specifically advertising technology. So that'll help you frame kind of how I'm talking about things and give the viewers context. So I kind of hacked the internet and became the most famous artist. If you Google the phrase, the most famous artist, depending on the day, you might see my face next to Picasso and Warhol and a few other famous artists. It was really just an SEO play. I generated tons of backlinks through headline generating projects like the ones you just mentioned. I also taught a famous dog how to paint a portrait of itself. I built the facsimile of a private jet so that people could take selfies inside of it. It was very goofy. Mocked the Fire Festival by creating a fire experience in Beverly Hills. But all throughout this playful kind of headline grabbing stuff, I've become very interested in art and the economy around art. Not so much fine art and the trading of that commodity, but the businesses ancillary to fine art that help artists make a living as artists. And so I built a handful of little businesses related to the art supply chain, related to monetizing creativity and licensing, and a mural agency, studio space as a service. Arrived at having quite a large community of artists that all shared a vision with me, which was creating income independent of the institutional gatekeepers, allowing us to pursue our craft and trade. Through that community of artists, arrived at this idea that while building in the cloud is fun and having a big Discord server and a whole bunch of people that collaborate digitally is fun, it'd be really cool to congregate everyone in a physical location. And so I went about kind of researching different scenarios wherein communities of artists have come into underdeveloped parts of cities and towns and changed kind of the economy of those places, and started to think about how I could actually build a machine through which I can use art and culture and the science of virality and kind of tap into what I think are emerging trends related to hospitality and related to the lifestyles that people want to live in the future.
Very cool. Yeah, no, I love that. And I think it's rare in the art space to find people that are also really business minded and, really are into marketing and things like that. What I found in the art world is they're almost anti all of that. So it's kind of refreshing to see your take and kind of how you've grown it through the collective and all the stuff you just mentioned. So why don't we get straight into like what is Art City, and then we can kind of break down the big vision.
Yeah, at the highest level, Art City is the the business entity I'm using to hopefully change, like upgrade the economy of a small town. More specifically, Art City started out as an art residency on a ranch in a small town called Tucumcari, where we were having painters and sculptors and ceramicists out to make their wares, kind of fall in love with the beauty and the nature of this place. And hopefully build like a groundswell movement of artists and collectors and art enthusiasts coming through this place, which already has a pretty vibrant tourism economy because of its proximity to Route 66. It then evolved into its current form, which is a 40-acre sculpture park and glamping site. It's based in the county, just outside of the city limits, but it has city power and water. So infrastructure was not a challenge. The city also, or the county also has few land use ordinances, which allowed us to do quite a lot of cool stuff, like bring in huge sculptures, which you would have most likely seen at places like Burning Man. The underlying thesis is that people have never been more wealthy. A certain portion of people have never been more wealthy. People are looking for really cool, experiential, off the beaten path things to do. And being able to walk around a big art sculpture park where you can play and interact with the art, and it's not pretentious or stuck up like something like Storm King, in an emerging town, much akin to what Marfa was before it kind of blew up into an art town. And hang out with your friends in nature is a thing people are going to be looking for. And in doing that, hopefully we bring a whole bunch of new business to this town and prove that art actually can be an engine that can revitalize even the smallest, most remote town, and make developers more seriously consider their cultural strategy when taking on projects of this scale in vision.
Yeah, no, I love that. So it's 40 acres, you said, is the property?
It's 40 acres and it backs up to hundreds of acres of state land.
Okay.
It's situated along this canal from Lake Conchas. Lake Conchas had a dam built in the, I want to say 50s, 60s, 70s. That then served as a capture for the Canadian River, which we are at the very tip of, that feeds all the way into the Mississippi. And what it did is it produced this really fertile valley where a bunch of agriculture happened. So this town of Tucumcari is roughly 50% agricultural and 50% tourism as a result of being on Route 66.
Okay. And that was actually one of my next questions is, because I know you were in LA for a long time. How did you pick, and I don't want to butcher the name, Tucumcari, New Mexico, as the location for Art City?
Yeah. Well, Tucumcari is how you say it. There's a couple of different myths around the name Tucumcari, which we can get into later if you like. But really what happened was in 2019, I visited Marfa for the first time. Are you familiar with Marfa?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Marfa, Texas is a small ex-military town in West Texas. It was the destination for an artist called Donald Judd in the 80s. He makes kind of these monumental minimalist artworks, mostly out of concrete and steel and other durable materials. He started inviting his friends down there, and the town has completely changed from kind of facing the end of its existence to suddenly becoming a cultural mecca for the art elite. Brought in foundations, it brought in museums, it brought in really cool high-end restaurants and hotels, and property values went up quite a lot. Seeing the impact that artist and his peers had on that economy, and the vibe it created got me really inspired about thinking along a longer term time scale for the projects I'm pursuing with my own art. So rather than thinking about what my next stunt is or what my next big mural is or what my next series of work is, I've oriented myself around this North Star, which is use art as an economic engine to revitalize really cool places that would otherwise fall by the wayside. In thinking about what works with Marfa is it was kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It was beautiful. There was some infrastructure there, and these artists moved in. The things that don't work about Marfa, it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It's not along a major thoroughfare. It does have a private airport. Tucumcari also has a private airport. Marfa doesn't have great water supply anymore. Tucumcari does have great water supply because of Lake Conscious, which I previously mentioned, and the aquifers underneath the town. Tucumcari also has fiber throughout it. Tucumcari is within 2-ish hours of 3 major airports: Amarillo, Albuquerque, and Santa Fe. Santa Fe is the 3rd largest art city in the world behind Los Angeles and New York. There was a number of criteria that made this place feel like it was a geography that would lead to successful execution of this vision.
Yeah, no, it's interesting how you're looking at it from all angles, because I don't think people would have realized it's that deep. I mean, you're even factoring in the water supply and all these things that I think most people wouldn't even be thinking about. And then so as it continues, and like you said, it's going to be your North Star. Like, what is your long-term vision for Art City? Hey there, I just have a quick favor to ask. If you're getting value from Founders Club and you're watching on YouTube, just give us a like, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on iTunes, leave us a 5-star review. These things are free to do, and it really helps the channel, and it also helps us be able to bring better guests for you in the future. Now back to the episode.
There's a couple of things that could happen. One is Art City does really well in Tucumcari, and it's isolated to Tucumcari. And in that case, if we can take this, let's say we can take the economy as it is today and we can double it in a few years, that would be fantastic for the town of Tucumcari. It would increase GRT, which would in turn become more resources to develop the town. Quality of life would improve. And we take a town which is otherwise kind of contracting. We have a demography problem. Older people are dying and their kids left. The quality of life here isn't great. It's good. It's good enough for me to be here full time, but it could be better. And there's a ton of inventory coming online in the next decade or so that has no one to claim it. So rather than thinking about this as like a gentrification play, it's a revitalization play. Because what happens with gentrification is you move into an area and you push the locals outward. What's happening in many small towns across America, and Tucumcari is not isolated in this, is the populations are getting older and the towns are otherwise going to turn to dust if someone doesn't come in and kind of revitalize them and bring youthful energy and bring people out of big cities where quality of life is declining really rapidly, which is one of the reasons I left LA. During the pandemic, I felt kind of the fragility of the big city and wanted to be in a place of community and stability, especially as an artist, where majority of my job is to like have space and time to think and read and make. So if Art City does really well in Tucumcari, I'm going to read to you my goals real quick.
Nice.
I wrote them down, so I want to make sure I get them right. So the question was, what does Art City look like as I think through the next 3 to 5 years? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So at a high level, because I hope to be a sound business person, I make no investments that I don't think are going to make 25% ROI on cash.
Okay.
So one condition of success for Art City is that it returns 25% of the capital I've invested. And we're going to do that through ticket sales of visitors coming through and buying day passes, and folks staying at our glamping accommodations. In parallel, we'll be hosting private events, weddings, birthdays, and perhaps doing small festivals at this venue. That would be great if I can pull that off in the next year. And coming into winter, it's going to be really important for me to get pre-bookings for next season. Again, we started this project in February, we launched in May, and we're growing. We had a great launch, and we're growing at about 10% a month right now.
Very cool.
2025, it would be amazing if we could build 100 new homes in Tucumcari. And what I need to do in order to demonstrate that is we don't lack the land or the water or the infrastructure. What I want to make sure I understand is demand. And I want to try to figure out what price we could land a modular home at in some kind of subdivided land, a couple hundred acres of subdivided land, provide homes and second homes for a whole bunch of people who could add to the cultural fabric of this town. That's hopefully going to kick off in 25. 26 awesome. And onward, I'd love to be able to grow the population of Tucumcari from approximately 5,000 to 10,000 people. And that would largely happen if knowledge workers moved here, folks that are not tied down by going into an office and can work from any location. And this becomes a place for digital nomads to find culture, to meld with nature, and to kind of enjoy the community we're creating here. So that would be one scenario. Tucumcari blows up, turns into the next Marfa, everything's going great. Another that I've been considering is that I've got a particularly special set of skills in acquiring artwork, which is one of the cornerstones of Art City, and having capable team members that are capable of building an aesthetic and a vibe that resonates with this like affluent young traveler, influencer culture person. So another thing that could happen is we go out to private equity and we raise a bunch of dough to acquire underperforming KOAs or other campgrounds, and we Art City them, which could create significant returns on capital invested. Another
what was a KOA? You said KOAs?
KOAs. So KOA, I believe it's a publicly traded campground operation.
Got it.
They're a franchise model, I believe. Art City could also become a franchise.
Very cool.
We have a large pipeline of this big artwork. And I think one distinction to make here is we're not playing in the fine art world where you have to have $1 billion to assemble a collection. And we're not playing in like the flat paintings on a wall world. What we're doing is we're going out to creators of big art, which is a category of art that isn't really paid attention to or valued by the fine art world, and doesn't have a platform other than, say, Burning Man and the festival circuit to be seen by the general public.
Right.
A lot of this big art gets produced for one-time showings at festivals and then has no home after. And that often leads the artist to have to pay immense storage bills in order to keep their art around. So I've been able to build a pipeline of all this art that's available and can place it at a really efficient price point and turn kind of a barren piece of land into a cultural destination.
Yeah. It's very cool. It's almost like if you build it, they will come kind of a scenario where you're making this little town into something that's really cool. It has the glamping, like you said, the artists can come, the digital nomads can come, and then eventually even growing the population and turning that into developing homes and housing tracts and doubling the population of a small town. So that's all really cool. I love what you're doing there. Why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of how you put the deal together? I'm guessing you bought this land, or how did you secure the land and get things started?
Sure. So I've been in Tucumcari for 3 years, and I spent the first 2 years getting to know the local community and making sure that folks were aligned with my vision, and I was a contributing member to the community before I went ahead and proceeded with my project or my development plan. Are you familiar with California Forever, the project that a bunch of billionaires are backing up in the Bay Area, where they bought 60,000 acres and now the town hates them and are about to vote them out of being able to develop that land?
Yeah.
So I think they approached it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'll go back to my approach. Like I moved here, got to know the lay of the land, got to know the people, joined the golf course as a member, became a board member, got to know the kind of the grandfathers of this town, joined the Elks Lodge, got to know the community members in the town, and realized I
Nice.
really like this place. The community is
Nice.
amazing. Everyone's really
Yeah.
supportive and cool. It's just been really challenging since the 1980s when the federal government built a bypass around the town for the town to survive and maintain its infrastructure that was built to largely service a bunch of through traffic that was completely eliminated as soon as there was a bypass built around the town. So I'm at the golf course and I'm talking about this project I want to do. And one of the other golfers says, "Hey, I've got this horse land out in the county, has city water and city power. It's 40 acres, backs up to state land. It's up against a mesa. It's got water rights. You can, in theory, put a pond in the middle of the place with the water rights.
Nice.
You know, it's up for the taking." And he said, "You know what? I would love to seller finance it to you." And I'm sure many of your folks are aware of that. But I think I was able to get the deal to more or less pay 20% down and seller finance the mortgage through this let's call it rancher or
Yeah.
you know, horse enthusiast, because I had built the relationships here and they were aligned with the vision. And so my debt service is like $700 a month on this 40 acres. And what's incredible about that is that it's more than $700 a month just to store one sculpture in the Bay Area.
Right. For sure.
And so worst
you
case
said you
scenario,
put,
I built a
yeah.
large outdoor art storage space.
Yeah. So you put 20% down on 40 acres and the guy seller financed you the rest at, what'd you say, $400 or $500 a month?
It's about $700 a month to service the debt. So
$700 a month.
it's
That's
roughly
fantastic.
$120,000 deal.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Okay, cool.
The startup costs
And
are extremely low.
yeah, it sounds like it. That's great. And I like how you're really playing the long game, going in, meeting all the grandfathers. I think you were even on like the city council at one time or dabbling with that. But getting to know the local community and things like that. So just curious, like how are they at this point feeling about everything and kind of supporting or not supporting your vision?
You know, there's a tremendous amount of support I'm feeling, but there's always some haters.
Of course.
I'm trying to do everything the best I can, and my intentions are good. Like, it's not to disrupt or displace existing members of the community. It's to, on the periphery of the community, build an economic engine that allows this place to remain on the map decades from now, and hopefully
Yeah.
become something of legendary status decades from now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that as far as politics go,
Mm-hmm.
before I moved to Tucumcari, I had never been to a city commission meeting or a county meeting. I didn't know that there was a city manager that reported into commissioners and the different structures of different counties and cities. I was kind of aloof, and I blame that largely on like civic engagement being kind of intimidating and boring in big places. Like there's a general apathy amongst millennials, and I'm a millennial, and maybe I'm speaking too broadly related to politics because it feels like it's just kind of crooked and broken.
Most definitely.
Moving here, though, I was surprised to find that all of our commissioners are relatively approachable and they're just other human beings, and got to know the kind of the format for delivering public messages at commission meetings or public comments at commission meetings. Got to know kind of how different organizations like the Lodger Tax Board and the Economic Development Board and LIDA funds and capital outlay work. And I've started to try to figure out how I can be a part of the game. It's become apparent to me that it's a really difficult spot to be a politician because everyone's got complaints, and no matter what you do, you're going to have haters. And especially in small towns, it feels like you're just like struggling to keep up with all the stuff that's like happening around you. And there's an inability to think about like a big long-term vision.
Mm.
And what I'm hopefully able to participate in is development of a long-term vision alongside of our councilmen and women and our city manager and our county manager and county commissioners.
Yeah. So just curious, like, what are the haters saying? Because it seems like if you're coming to a small town that's declining in population, that is losing resources, and you're bringing almost like a tourist destination of sorts, what would be the negatives? What are they saying?
Yeah, I think it has to do with a mindset that needs to shift. When I was involved in startups, the concept of equity was something I learned about very, very early on. And I was able to make a lot of money because I took equity in lieu of cash and I got aligned around a longer term vision. In the early 2000s, when I visited Latin America, equity was just starting to become something that people were paying attention to and realizing that in participating in something bigger than themselves, you can gain outsized returns. Now, if I think to my experience, like kind of moving to this small town, it feels like there's one pie. And there's this mentality that if I take a slice, I'm taking a slice from everyone else. And my mentality and what I'm trying to share is that we can build a pie factory.
Yeah, let's build a bigger pie.
A bigger pie or a pie factory.
Yeah.
So it's really like changing a mindset of if you get, I lose, which is a small town mentality, especially in a place that hasn't seen a lot of economic upside for many decades. But shifting that mentality and showing through doing, like inviting the whole town out to a big barbecue at the art ranch at Art City, builds rapport and turns the haters' views to perhaps a positive light.
More supportive.
More supportive. But I would say the haters are far outnumbered by the enthusiasts.
That's awesome. All right, so bringing it back to the art side of things, like you said, you're looking for these massive art sculptures, installations, which like you said, are not. It's kind of a niche within a niche, and they're generally just at those big festivals and things like that. So, how are you going about finding these artists, and how do you work with them to get their installations to Art City?
Sure. So we'll start with Burning Man. Burning Man, which is like a roughly 70,000 person festival that's been happening for almost 40 years in the Black Rock City Desert, has now roughly 400 objects that are created for it. Burning Man offers grants through its ticket sales and its foundation to pay these artists to make these things. These artists bring these things to the biggest stage for big art there is.
Yeah.
And very few of them have plans after Burning Man. So we've started to tap into the storage yards, the artist networks, and figure out, can we find a home for your stuff, and can we structure a fair deal that makes you feel good about us displaying your work on our property? So far, I've been successful with that. When I first concocted the idea, I reached out to some artists, and they were adamant that this wouldn't work. And it's largely because they had been tainted by an experience called transfix. What had happened was a group of folks raised, I want to say 10 million bucks, rented a parking lot from the Resort World Hotel in Vegas, brought in all this art, and had projected insane ticket sales, which would cover an insane burn. And unfortunately, after all these artists brought their work there, ticket sales flopped, and a bunch of art was stranded in a parking lot in Vegas, and it got like ripped out and moved to storage.
Yikes.
So that was not a good first look for the big art movement.
Yeah.
But what I was able to do is learn kind of the missteps through that process. Like, one, I didn't want my overhead to be so high that I needed outlandish numbers in order to create longevity for this thing. Hence the land deal I did and the location I chose.
Yeah.
Two, we want to make sure the artists get paid and compensated and get to participate in the upside of their art. And so the deal I structured was one wherein I would consign the work for a number of years, and I'd have the right to sell the work to a collector. I'd participate in the upside of that sale, and the artist would have their work on display and for sale, which is way better than in a storage yard.
Nice. Yeah.
The other conditions were that I'd pay an artist fee. So they'd come to Art City, they'd get a great experience. We'd feed them, we'd house them, we'd provide the equipment, we'd help them install their work, and we'd also pay for transportation and logistics. All in all, we were averaging about $20,000 to $25,000 per piece of art landed at Art City.
Okay.
We have 12 stood up and 14 on site so 2 in the process of getting created. I think that's enough big art to create a vibe that people are willing to pay $10 to come visit, especially those that are already visiting a number of museums in the town of Tucson, the Dinosaur Museum, the Route 66 Museum, the Historic Museum, the Railroad Museum. Tucson has over 100,000 room nights booked a year. It has roughly 2,000 rooms available a night. It's about a $15 million economy just for room night bookings here in this town. Those were all signals to me that this model might work. Capture some portion of those folks that are passing through and staying at motels and get our occupancy up to 60, 70%. And this is a bangerang business.
So let me just let me see if I'm following what you just said there. So the artists, they build these big things for these festivals or wherever they're initially displayed, and then what they would normally have to do is break them down and put them in storage somewhere, which is costing them money every month. And your opportunity for them is, hey, let's put this in Art City. It almost acts as like a gallery for their work because now it's for sale. And then you get a percentage of the sale. They obviously get their cut of the sale. They're not having to pay storage fees. And it sounds like you're paying them a little bit up front to get it there and get it all set up.
You nailed it.
Nice. And then your vision from there is to create the campground and the lodging for people to stay on site, and then obviously just the people that want to buy a day pass, like a museum type visit, and that's how you're able to get revenue off of the project.
Yes, and that's already happening. We're already booking campsites and booking out trailers and have day visitors and opening up a gift shop and exploring all sorts of monetization opportunities through this facility that we've created. So we're fully operational. It's working.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so, tell me a little bit about the lodging side of things. Like, how does that work? What do you guys have there now? What are you going to build from here?
Sure. It was important to me that everything was modular, to keep costs low. So we have a number of trailers that have power and water and septic hookups. So we put in a
Okay.
septic.
Yeah.
We have private bathrooms that are kind of like state-of-the-art enclosed bathrooms with sink and water hooked into our septic system. We have a floating shared outdoor kitchen and outdoor spa with sauna and hot tub, outdoor showers. We've got a number of shift pods, which are like little glamping yurt type things that are popular at Burning Man. And then we have a whole bunch of nice campsites. We're in the process of building out some shipping containers into units so that we have cabins. And we've also acquired an adjoining property with 2 double wide trailer homes that we're renovating. So each of those trailer homes have 3 bedrooms. We'll be at about 12 all-weather accommodations by October, going into the winter, and unlimited camping capacity.
Nice. Very cool. And then in terms of like the vibe that you're creating, is this like the Burning Man vibe, or is this like the bring your family type vibe?
This is very much bring your family to see something you've never seen before type vibe. I think one interesting thing about marketing this is that much of my art has been satirical of like high culture and the fine art world. And I've created a very like every man and woman's type product. And so I have to do the kind of more boring marketing exercises like print out flyers and distribute them at all the rest stops and put up billboards, and we'll do the influencer stuff. But this is very much meant to be a safe haven, an adult playground, family friendly. But we can activate it for a whole bunch of different types of events as well. So if we wanted to have a festival, we could. If we wanted to have a wedding, we could. If we wanted to have a private birthday where a billionaire flies in on their private jet and gets picked up with a limo with bull horns on the front of it, and we have a whole bunch of circus performers there, we can do that.
Nice.
It's a very flexible space, but the bulk of revenue is coming through people that are traveling I-40, which has 20 some odd thousand travelers every single day, stopping over, checking out something new and exciting that's relatively limited in capacity, only 12 keys, unless you bring your own camper or van or tent.
So right now there's only 12 available units if you want like air conditioning and a bed and all the things.
Correct.
Nice, nice.
But
And then
12 units at $1,000 or $100 a unit is a pretty healthy business.
Yeah, especially if your costs are as low as it sounds like they are.
Yeah, this is about $1 million project.
Okay, all in for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. And then where do you see it growing from here in terms of the on-site lodging and, things like that?
I think this goes back to my like goals. I want to, in the next 12 months, turn over 25% ROI on this project. If that's possible and I can get that many people through this site, I want to start pre-selling like a 100-unit subdivision. I'd have to go get special use permits from the county. I'd have to work with other developers and financiers to get construction loans and all that stuff. It's way out of my area of expertise. But I believe if I can build the demand, the right people will show up to help me do that. And then we'll have this 100-unit subdivision community on ranch land in New Mexico with great water and all the amenities connected to a giant art park.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. And so do you have any wild marketing tactics that you're working on for this thing that you can share?
I did just buy the best spot on Route 66 and the best stop on Route 66. So in 2026, the 100-year anniversary of Route 66 is going to be celebrated. And the 8 states along Route 66 are putting up marketing budgets and all this stuff. I think if Art City can be known as the best stop or spot on Route 66, that would be really cool. And it's kind of funny. The headline would read, "The most famous artist creates Art City, the best spot on Route 66," which is just hilarious. It's also on the nose. So we're doing that. And then the classic stuff, like letting influencers come out for a weekend and treating them well and having them make a video if they have a big enough audience. I'm doing some clever like geofencing Facebook advertising. And with most
in the local market or in nearby markets?
Nearby markets.
Okay.
Local and nearby. I mean, generally speaking, if you're in a small Route 66 town and you are not from there, or you live outside of 500 miles from there, it's safe to assume you're probably a Route 66 traveler. And then there's all sorts of fun stuff we can do with geofencing along the way.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, and then with all my big stunts, it's always kind of come to me last minute, and it's been like so right that I've just executed it really quickly. And so I anticipate there will be this breakout moment where the whole world learns about Art City, and I'm not forcing that. I'm doing all the blocking and tackling now, trying to build a healthy little business, and then when this thing blows up on the main stage, I'll be ready for what's next.
Yeah, you'll be ready, and I'm sure it'll come to you. Yeah, most definitely. What about in terms of the projects that you have now? Like, what is the most, ambitious, audacious, innovative project that you have there
Of the art.
of the installations? Yeah.
There's a guy called Dave Keene who has a team called Folly Builders, Folly.
Mhm.
And they built these really cool tree-looking structures that are effectively tree houses out of recycled lumber. And
Yeah.
they installed this forest of trees in the backside of our property in a grove of trees, and it is magical.
Yeah, I saw it on Instagram. It looks really cool.
There's another piece there called The Mind's Eye by Lana Eddy. And we've situated it such that the moon always rises behind it for the majority of the summer. And what's cool about that is you can get a picture of the moon straight through this circular hole that's in the middle of the head of this mind's eye sculpture. You'll have to go to visitartcity.com to see what I'm talking about, or check us out on Instagram. But that was also kind of a really cool, happy accident. The one that seems to resonate most with folks is by a work by the artist Finch, kind of a famous San Francisco graffiti artist and street artist. It's called The Lips, and it looks a lot like the Rolling Stone lips, but it's just a gigantic 12 by 20 foot metal pair of lips that you can see from the road. And that seems to resonate with people. So the art doesn't take a genius to get it. It's big, it's beautiful, it's playful. And unlike
Right.
the fine art world, we're not saying don't touch the art.
Right. Touch it, climb on it, take pictures of it, all that.
Well, we're not encouraging people to climb on it, but some people do.
Yeah.
We do ask people
Yeah.
to sign a visitor policy on their way in, so that
Okay. Well, the one with the trees looked like it had like bridges going back and forth and all that sort of stuff.
it does. It has a stairwell that leads up it, and it's a
Nice.
climb at your own risk type scenario.
Yeah. Very cool. So are you looking for more artists, or do you feel like you have kind of your initial group and you're good for now?
I mean, uh, not to toot my own horn, but I'm one of the only people in this big art community that has pulled this thing off.
Mm.
And artists are all the artists, unless I haven't heard the negative feedback, have been overwhelmingly positive about their experience of working with Art City, and that word
Awesome.
of mouth is spreading. And
Yeah.
so I have like kind of an unlimited pipeline of art.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the thing that's most interesting to me is finding folks with the right piece of land to do a joint venture to maybe launch Art City 2, especially with all the learnings we got after this first iteration of it. And then I'm looking for folks that hear about this story and say, aha, I know how to do the 100-unit subdivision, or I have an even bigger idea given all you've shared. Let's get in touch. Like,
Yeah.
some of my best relationships have been random DMs from folks that I've shared a vision and then they've come through and said, I can help you execute that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the audience here will definitely be able to help with the 100-unit subdivision, that's for sure.
Right
So
on.
that's very cool. I love the vision there. And right now, in terms of like how you're funding this, is this something you raised money for, or you're going to raise money for to scale, or are you doing it all personally and kind of as it grows, building it out?
Uh, it's structured as a C Corp, blend of equity and debt, uh, self-financed.
Okay, cool. And then in terms of, um, is there an exit strategy? Do you see eventually selling this thing, or do you have an exit plan, or is that not even on the drawing board yet?
Yeah, this business could comfortably spit off like 500 grand to $1 million of free cash flow a year. I'm not
Hmm.
sure what kind of multiples you get on like cool experiences, but that's one exit strategy.
Yeah,
And that could happen
yeah.
in the next year or two if this goes according to plan. I'd
Okay.
like to see it become much bigger than that and
Hmm.
perhaps take on KOA. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I love your idea of, I don't know if this is even the right word, but franchising it and building these in similar places kind of all over the world, really.
yeah, Meow Wolf is a great example of this happening inside of warehouses. So Meow Wolf started in Santa Fe. It's this, I want to say tens of thousands of square foot warehouse that they converted into an art experience. People take photos there. They subsequently raised a huge amount of money to put one in Vegas and Denver. That model's working.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And then what have you seen this project do to kind of the local real estate market around it in terms of prices of land and prices of homes, or has that even happened yet? Pardon the quick interruption, but if you're looking for a little extra help growing your real estate business, make sure you hit the link in the description below to book a one-on-one consulting session where I will personally help you take your real estate business to the next level. Over the last 15 years, I've grown a brokerage to over 1,000 agents in multiple states, consistently doing over $4 billion a year in sales. And we've been on the Inc. 500 5 times. I would love to personally help you reach your business goals and have the best year you've ever had. Book your session today. And now back to the podcast.
You know, it's hard to buy land here because it's a whole bunch of old timey ranchers that kind of have pride in how much land they own.
Yeah, no, I get that for sure.
There has been a wave of new people moving to Tucumcari, people starting small businesses, artists that are buying homes and moving here because the cost of living is lower and there's an emerging cultural scene. We're seeing new businesses open, which is exciting.
Yeah.
As far as real estate prices, hasn't changed much. We've only been at this for about we launched in May. We started in February. We're sprinting.
Right. It's brand new.
Brand new. But what's cool is I'll be able to look at the P&L of the city and the county and, roughly approximate how much of a lift this had, how many heads it put in beds, which is a metric that the hotels use, what it did to GRT, what it did to the population. And in a year or two, be able to say this like, as a matter of fact, worked as an art project that drove economic development or didn't.
What is your kind of ultimate metric of success? You've mentioned a couple things, 25% ROI, doubling the population, things like that. Like what is the ultimate art city success story?
I think it's personal, and it's like, as long as I'm having fun and surrounded by people that inspire me, I keep going. And so that's what success means to me. I've had a very blessed life. I'm not chasing, a new car or a bigger house or whatever it may be. I'm just trying to enjoy the time I have here, share inspiration and meet cool people.
Yeah, no, I love that. And you've obviously got the marketing mind, that's something that I think really helps in terms of a project like what you're working on, just being able to make a lot of noise and be able to get the attention focused there, which again drives all those metrics, the heads in beds, the visitors, the people staying on site, ticket sales, all that kind of stuff. So how do you look at just marketing in general? And weren't you behind the monolith thing too? Was that you as well?
Yeah, the media claimed I was behind it, and then they claimed I wasn't behind it. And I stand by my claim, which is it was aliens for sure.
Definitely.
When they reached out. Yeah, if anyone's interested in seeing my stupid art projects, go to themostfamousartist.com and you can read the headlines, hundreds of headlines, from being engaged to Miley Cyrus on Instagram to dragging $1 million in a transparent duffel bag around an art fair just to see how people would react.
It's amazing.
So questions on marketing. I mean, I'm reluctant to be the guy that goes on TikTok and talks at a camera all the time. I could probably do it. I grew an audience on TikTok to 500,000 people by doing some goofy meme thing. I recognize the power of it. I recognize the power of Facebook ads, especially powered by AI, to kind of optimize for conversions. I think the most important thing that differentiates you when everything else is equal, because everyone knows about all these tactics. Everyone has access to the same tools. it's grit and determination, it's speed, it's efficiency, and more than anything, it's story.
I love that. Can you expand on that story piece a little bit?
Sure, like I could have named this place Art Campground or the Big Art Spot, or even Art Campground and Big Art Spot, good names. I could have named it something totally stupid. I named it Art City because it elicits in the mind like, wait, is this a city? Is the ambition to turn this town into a city with art? Do art cities exist? Like, I think that I think I hopefully I nailed that. I think the story around all the artists coming together to build this in community and the possibly altruistic effects it could have on a small town's economy are the story that I need to perpetuate in order to kind of push this thing into existence.
Awesome. No, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, what's less inspiring than someone coming to you and say, I want to build 100-unit subdivision because the land is cheap and the water is good.
Right. Yeah.
And there's demand. Like, that's so uninspiring. So my job is to tell a way more inspiring story that would take a project that on paper looks like a win and make it something that the best of the best are competing to participate in.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. And then to piggyback on that, what would your advice be to other creative entrepreneurs out there?
Oh God, don't listen to advice. Yeah. Look, I don't have any advice. If you have if you're a creative entrepreneur and you have a particular idea or question, feel free to email me. You can find my email on my website, themostfamousartist.com, or visit artcity.com. Make it short and concise, and I'll personalize my feedback. But I don't like to speak in broad truisms because 50% of
that's totally fair.
haters.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's awesome. So for the people that want to get in touch with you, learn more about Art City, visit Art City, how do they connect and how do they do that?
Visit artcity.com,
Okay.
mostfamousartist.com. You can find me on Instagram with both those handles. And reach out. Emails open, DMs open. Looking forward to connecting with more real estate professionals, looking for great pieces of land with the right conditions for success to do this strategy on, looking for experienced developers and financiers that want to wrap on projects like this.
Yeah, love it. Well, very cool. Appreciate your time on anything. I think that's a perfect place to wrap. Glad you told us what you're looking for so people can reach out. Excited to come visit myself and check out what you got going out there. I think it's a really cool project, a really good idea, and wish you all the best in the future and nothing but success.
Thank you. And let me know when you're ready to visit. I'll roll out the red carpet.
Nice, man. I appreciate that. Thanks, Matty. And again, if you like money, like real estate, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next one.